following through with commitments to myself will build trust in yourself. It's not a thing that all of a sudden you flip a light and you start to trust yourself. It's an accumulation. It's a momentum that you build. Little things. I'm going to wake up at this hour. I'm going to eat like this. I'm not going to use these words anymore, or I am going to do this or that. Little things will become a mountain, just one rock at a time. It'll become a mountain of trust. And then another element is faith in yourself. And faith is really cultivated through spiritual practice, through like your yoga. You develop a vigor. That's why I like Hanuman so much. Hanuman is the monkey god of Hindu mythology, and in many traditions, Hanuman is worshipped much more than God himself, because Hanuman had so much faith in God. That's all he did. 100% of the time, he would just chant the word of God, all the time. And there's something to be said about somebody that has so much faith. Where do you get all of your faith? And it's because Hanuman practiced all day. That was his thing. It was 100% practice, never anything else. And so you develop a faith if you practice. And then trust through momentum. And then everything else, letting go. If you trust yourself, you let go. It just happens. And it's super interesting. I love the idea of presence. And I hope you guys don't mind me talking about your things in particular. But I love talking. And I love the mental side of things. Meredith's yeah, he talks a lot. It's interesting because nothing's ever happening not in the present. But sometimes we're unaware of our sense perceptions in the moment. So we may be daydreaming. That daydreaming is happening in the present. We may be thinking of the future or reminiscing, but that's only happening in the present that we're doing it. We just may be unaware of the sunlight that's hitting me or the sounds of people around us. So because we're only existing in the present, we just may be unaware of occurrences that are happening in the present, and which is only perceived through our senses. So the more we can get into our senses, the more present we become. The more we acknowledge how we're feeling internally, emotionally and viscerally, I have a tummy ache or whatever. The more we can acknowledge, which is really hard for guys in particular. I have found it's hard for everybody, but guys are less and less willing to acknowledge that there's something feeling inside, and that's part of being present. So a lot of that I think comes from tapping into parasympathetic. The more calm we can become, the more noticeable agitations are. The stiller the water, the more you notice a ripple. But if it's an ocean, you're not going to see ripples. So calming yourself down, you start to gain a reference for where is the deviation from calmness happening. And inevitably, we all value calmness. We all strive for an element of peace internally. And so when you develop an immense value, a self-value, or not appreciation, but when you determine the value of something, what is that called? Worth? Assessment or something. There's another word there. But when you really come to value inner peace, then you will start to seek out the sources of the agitations, because you want to extirpate those agitations. And that will bring you definitely to the present. What is in the present moment agitating my system? And that's a beautiful thing. When you release those things and they no longer bother you, or they no longer agitate you. Because then you do alchemy. Then you start to change, how do I perceive this thing that's agitating me? Is it a worry that I have? Is it something internally like nutrition? I'm being aggravated by my digestive system? Or is it a sense of self-worth? I feel like I should be accomplishing or achieving this or that, like the yoga pose or something like that. Or it's unlimited, When you find the source of that, then you just change your perception about it. Because that same thing might not agitate another individual. The same phenomenon so two people are perceiving it differently, and it's all in your perception of how you change it. So being present and into your senses steers your attention there.